On the top of the head and the sides.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
We good?
Well, if anybody's still here, we're going to may listen later, of which we got a few. So, Canine martial arts.
Canine martial arts.
Canine martial arts. That's what we've been using the phrase. That was what Canine Pro Sports started doing, where we competed and certified dogs for actual street protection. And the whole thing is based on the idea that a dog should be able to defeat a man by himself. Think about it. When you see, if you go on YouTube and look at all the videos of police dogs apprehending, catching someone, stopping someone, catching, running them down, as soon as the dog hits, within seconds, there's a whole squad of guys, police officers, picking them up, right?
We don't have that in the personal protection world, do we?
No, no,
No.
because you're by yourself, right?
Yep.
Somebody snatches your wife's purse, takes off running. Who's going to help you get this guy?
My trusty friend.
Your trusty friend.
Yeah.
And once your trusty friend grabs this guy and begins reshaping muscle mass on his body,
Yeah.
you got to go up and get your friend, your trusty friend, off of this person's body and hope he doesn't whoop out a pistola and blow you away when the dog gets off of him, right? Ever think about that?
No.
No. So if that person's not completely disabled, you could be in trouble.
Yes. You could be.
So these are some of the things I've learned from doing this on the streets and from a guard dog company, which I'll get a heads up to Marina Connie Corso, did an interview with me, one of the few people in a long time to ask about actual guard dogs and street dogs and protection on the streets. So we're going to sort of, I think this is valuable. There's too many people out there buying sport trained dogs thinking they're safe. And if you're a domestic violence victim, if as has happened to me, if you're involved in a divorce with a rather violent ex, any sort of, if you're just in a very wealthy neighborhood, which are the most popular places for thieves to be, and the places where there's the least publicity about there being a robbery. So if your neighbor did get robbed, you probably won't know about it.
Right.
Because no one wants everyone to know they got broke into. So for all of you people, you need a dog trained properly for street work, not for sport work. Okay? And what I want to go into and here a little bit is the way we did it in the guard dog industry, the way the system we developed to get dogs able to, as it says in the Canine Pro Sports rule book, we judge the dog on his ability to intimidate, dominate, and control.
There's a big one.
Yeah, the person. So there's a lot. It's like any endeavor, any martial arts. There's lots of little bitty things that make it all work or not work. And if you just watch two guys in a fight, you don't think about the fact that when he throws that jab, just before he pops it, he flips that wrist over, right? When he throws an uppercut, you don't see him put his legs into that movement and really lift that person's chin up. These are the skills that you develop when you get to advanced anything.
Yep.
Right? Basketball, bricklaying.
Yep. Absolutely.
You got little bitty things you as a bricklayer do to make sure that every course runs straight.
Yes, and a lot of it is technique.
Technique.
And you got to master that technique.
Yep.
It doesn't come overnight.
Nope.
Practice, but there's certain things that you do that actually make everything better, smoother, slicker, and people don't see that.
Right.
All they see is what you said. They see the jab. They don't see the way the wrist turns or how your stance is and how you're flow, not what your feel is. Everything has a feel to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so the only way to get a dog who can actually on their own, stop somebody on the street, and keep you safe because they have control of the suspect or the perp at this point, is to train in a style that's different than what the police use. They don't need this. They'd probably benefit from it, but they don't need it.
So, sport trained protection dog, right? I'm thinking martial artists use more than just a fist. They use their feet, head, everything is being used. So martial art, canine martial arts must mean something similar to that, Butch.
Absolutely, absolutely. You see in the sport dogs, if you watch them hit, and we're going to touch on some parts right now. When you see if you go look at any of the videos of dogs, especially at the Schützen trials, when they hit that sleeve and they'll hang there, they hold themselves on literally with their bite. And that helps the judge.
With their what?
Their mouth, their bite.
That's it.
That's it. They're hanging on that sleeve.
That's all they do.
That's all they do.
Okay.
But it helps the judge, that's his job, judge the bite. How full is it? And this sort of thing. How deep, intensity. But they're missing part of their skill set. They could be, instead of their feet, instead of holding themselves up by their mouth, which by the way means the rest of their body is going limp and dead, a prime target for someone to stab them.
So it's like a fighter just saying, hit me in the face.
Yeah.
Put your guard down.
Yeah.
Punch, but you're not blocking.
Right. I got
Okay.
one hand up, but I'm not blocking with this.
So he can come in and just give you a roundhouse. Yep.
So what do we do when we're training a canine martial artist? We got a little picture here. I'm going to show you. We're going to hopefully fill the screen with it. This was my partner in my canine services company. Let me know when you can see it real good, Carol Ann.
It's a little crooked, Sinclair. Can you bring that in down? There we go.
Okay. So if you'll look real close, first off, this is Osa. She was a German Shepherd. She was my partner, my best friend for years and years and years. And first thing everyone notices is, wow, look how big that mouth is. Look how wide open that mouth is. When she clamps down, it's gonna hurt. That's the first thing everybody sees. But you need to look at the subtle things, just like you don't see when Mike Tyson throws a punch. You didn't see him driving through with his legs. You just saw that arm flicking out there. So let's talk about legs like Scott just said. Notice her front feet. The front feet are extended and they're at about the same distance from that decoy's body as the dog's mouth is. When that dog bites down on that arm, those front feet, if that person would be standing straight frontal, which most people would be, because they're not trained to be a decoy, those front feet, when the dog pulled back, would hit that person right in the breadbasket, knocking out all their wind, allowing that dog to bend them over and literally bend that person to their will. That's one technique used in a true canine martial artist. And oh, by the way, I know you're looking at it, so I'm going to address this, even though it's not martial arts. This was the first time person who thought, I'm going to try, let me see what it's like. And I said, well, Osa's real safe and real honest, and I can stop her. She outs and everything. So you want to, she was kind of my teacher dog. So if you're noticing the expression on that new decoy's face, that is what we call the oh shit moment that all people for the first time experience whenever they met Miss Osa, who was also a dream. So notice the feet, notice the mouth, notice how she's leading with her feet, just like a boxer leads with his left jab and follows with his right hook. A good martial artist will lead with those front feet jabbing and hook or cross with a big right, which is their jaws. So that's how we get their control. Got her, Scott? That's good. There we go. So you see the first difference in how we're training? We're teaching the dogs to lead with their front feet.
Yes.
And you see the purpose for it.
Yes.
So the big thing is,
But also, it also, I mean, you're coming in, you're rushing, You get a bite, but it throws the perpetrator off balance and doesn't know.
Right.
He has to, that dog has time to react and think. Dogs think of their situation
Yep.
and what's the next move.
Yeah.
To me, it's a chess game for it. It ain't just running in blindly and biting somebody.
Right.
You know, because there's guard dogs. Your dogs are all by themselves all the time.
Exactly.
There's nobody there with them.
No, they got to do it all on their own.
Yeah. So they have to think.
Right, and you can say usually in 9 times out of 10 in a personal protection situation, your dog is that person. You're not going to send your dog after anybody, so he's not going to be running. So why do I worry about his feet? Same reason. If you're standing, and you've already seen this as an agitator, Scott. The person may have his dog on leash, but when you come into that dog, when he jumps, he's still going to plant them feet in your breadbasket.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And when he starts pulling, and that's another part of the martial arts versus the sport dogs. Sport dogs, you'll see them, they're all just biting in, pushing. And they don't turn loose for anything, which is what really sparked all this controversy and all the emails I've been getting this week. They bite and they hold. And I've had people tell me that's the superior way of doing it, and I've talked to police officers and they say that's the way to do it. Well, again, if you got a squad of people to back you up, then that's great. You can send your dog in, 3 seconds later, everybody, gang piles on the...
So I'm by myself, and someone comes at me. My dog gets out and bites him and grabs the guy. And the guy is freaking out, but the dog's bit, so he grabs a knife out of his pocket or grabs that collar and chokes that fucking dog out. I'm sorry, that dog out. I get excited about this because you need rebiting. Dogs,
Yeah.
it's a defense system,
Yeah.
but you come up like this, the dog will release that bite and hit this arm and will watch the other guy's arm.
Exactly.
He's done.
Drop your mic.
I know I did.
Okay. So think of it this way. It's very simple. If I'm throwing a left jab and then someone comes around with a right hook in my jaw, if I don't block it, boom, I get clocked. If your dog bites somebody, that somebody has a knife, picks a rock up off the ground, picks a stick up, whatever, and comes around with that same right cross, and your dog doesn't do anything to block, your dog gets clocked. Simple as that.
True.
I've had people, so let me explain how the dog world really works, folks, especially at the high level protection training. All of our techniques, everything about training comes from sport people. Same with just basic obedience for the AKC. It comes from sport people because these people have a system that's written that they can talk about. They've got a training system they can write down, they can tell you about, and you're going to go there to find out what's going on. Okay? Police officers are on the street, yes, but police officers, 80%, are working with imported, already trained dogs. They don't train the dogs. They're just doing what the broker they buy the dog from tells them to do. So your sources for information are competition, show, trial field people, and police officers ain't gonna tell you squat, and they don't know how the dogs were trained either. And they never reach that point that you'll reach because they've got a squad with them to subdue the person. So like I've said, do you want your security dog to be a dog that, a sport dog, someone who's got championship this and champion Schutzen 3 and 5, 3 and 7, someone who's been on the field and won all the world championships? Or do you want someone who's worked on the street? It's kind of like if you needed heart surgery, do you want to go to the hospital and find you someone who played a doctor on TV to do your heart surgery? Or do you want to go find a surgeon? Same thing. And where they lose it is real simple. The sport dogs bite and hold their bite so the judges can judge the bite. And that's great. That's what they should be doing. But in real life, failure to block that right hook coming across can cost your dog his life. And if your dog is put out of commission, you could be put out of commission.
Now, I got a question.
Okay?
So your dog is biting hard, and all of a sudden he comes over and that dog drops the blocks. Well, wham! No, his dog's thinking a bit. To me, and I know this, the bites, not the same thing. They hurt. Actually, a dog will bite harder on a rebite. In my
Yes,
opinion.
yes, I agree. And Scott's bringing that up because one of the people who asked questions, you can see on our last video, said something about, well, I talked to a police officer and they said, if you're teaching a dog to fear that second hand, then if they bite it, they're not going to bite as hard. And they can't bite hard if they're thinking anyway. I don't really follow that reasoning, but it's what Scott said. If that first one don't take you out, if they go for that second one, they're going to put even more into it, believe it or not.
They do.
You know, and irregardless, if they don't block that second shot coming at them, they're knocked out.
You know, it's conditioning. We got to condition the dogs to.
Right.
But dog likes to bite. Dog bites. And to me, a rebite to a rebite, with the kachis. 3 rebites. And let me tell you what, from what I seen, you very across the board.
Yeah.
And then you look at it.
Yeah, and you can go to Canine Pro Sports. I think there's a YouTube video of this dog he's talking about that we put up years ago. And you'll see it in action. You'll see it actually happening. And you can decide whether you'd be disabled or not. But I can tell you something else about a good dog that learns to bite correctly. If a dog nails you really good on the forearm, and then you reach around to grab his collar, and this is something I've seen and experienced. This is not me, what I think might happen on the street, because I went to a lot of dog shows. This is what I've seen. He bites here, you reach to grab his collar, to hit him with a knife, to hit him with a brick, and he turns loose and nails this one right here. When he turns loose of this hand, you don't have use of these fingers anymore. He's not going to reach over and grab the dog or hit the dog again, because there's tendons that have been severed, and the ability to move these fingers is not going to be there. And then when he grabs this one, he's in complete control. Now, there's other steps before the rebite that all these people who are telling me that won't work don't understand. If your dog is trained properly, he's got total control of this person's movements before this person ever has the ability to re-attack him. Those are all parts of martial arts. Yes, ma'am. Who we got?
I got 2 comments.
Okay.
Molly made a comment. She said her Zeus hit puberty this week, and it's like a switch flipped. She said there were some workermen next door that ran.
Who is this?
Molly Jones.
Okay. Hey, Molly.
And then
Thank you for that.
Have Modesta. They said if they are rebiting on the second bite, I would think he would be in a more defensive drive and would naturally bite harder.
Yeah.
That's their opinion. So they agree with you.
Nice opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. And remember, you train in prey drive to get a full mouth bite, like you saw in that picture of Osa. You train in defense to make it intense and hard. So yeah, it's exactly what happens, Modesta.
So, like properly training, you said, the dog needs to be shown, and to me, the dog can learn movements, how a man moves his body.
Oh yeah.
Everything. So, training these dogs, incorporating this rebite work, the dog knows. The dogs learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, push coming out to dodge, bite in, and then coming up arm inside the shoulder here to block. I mean, all this can be taught, and that's what I'm saying. It's taught that way.
Right.
I have
Here.
a question.
Yeah.
Is a guard dog's business in NYC something worth starting?
In NYC, I would think probably yes. I know through the '70s, they used to have quite a few of them. I would think that, and anyone, if you're interested in the guard dog business, I'll be glad to, give me a call, or maybe we'll do a podcast on that someday. I'll be glad to explain how it works. But yeah, I would say any major city where there's a crime problem, um, guard dogs are going to be especially uh, in demand in places where they don't have or can't afford an electronic surveillance or camera or alarm system, and where they don't have regular patrols. Smaller businesses, used car lots, if they're getting hit a lot, that's the biggies. Um, Construction sites, that's the next biggie, because there's no electricity out on that site as they're building.
No, for the most part, there isn't.
Right,
And all the equipment's stored there in connexes with thin lofts. And
exactly.
I've seen them cut through connexes with saws in the middle of the night, like in the middle of downtown Dallas, matter of fact. And the police, no one ever responded, no one knew about it. Next morning, we had lost $40,000 equipment.
Yeah, yeah. So construction sites were always a biggie for me.
Yeah.
And Scott's pretty deep into the construction business. He can tell you it can get pricey to a company to get hit one time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, those are all good places for them. Your difficulty is you got to get up early because you got to get the dogs put up before the customer wants to open his doors. Because you got to think about this: when you have a guard dog on the site, not even the owner can come back on that site if your dog's trained properly.
Right.
And if he ain't trained properly, the owner's going to fire you anyway because the dog didn't bite somebody. So but you got to be willing to get up early and go get them. Just like any job, there's work, but it's a lot of fun. You'll see things that most people have never even dreamed dogs could do, or or what scared people running from a dog can do. Right?
Right.
Scott?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I hope that's a good intro to everybody. We're apologizing for all the electronic problems we're having. We don't know, our signals are, for the first time in over a year, for the last 3 weeks, we've had troubles.
Our provider is having difficulties.
Yes, there you go. So we're working with Second Wind. We're gonna get some new camera systems up here, and we hope to have it all up next week. And if we don't, well, we appreciate your patience and hope you stay tuned and we're worth listening to. So we'll see you next week.
Good night, all.